It's 2:17 a.m., and I'm folding my clothes into a suitcase while my wife sleeps 10 feet away. My hands are shaking. Every drawer I open, every shirt I fold sounds like thunder in the silence. But Sarah doesn't stir. She's probably dreaming about something funny. Everything's always funny to Sarah. 6 hours ago, I was washing dishes after dinner when she walked into the kitchen with this mischievous grin I'd seen 1,000 times before. Emma, our 3-month-old daughter, was finally asleep upstairs, and the house felt peaceful for the first time all day. "Hey, babe," Sarah said, leaning against the counter. "I have something to tell you." I kept scrubbing the pasta pot, half listening. "What's up?" "Emma isn't yours." The plate I was holding slipped from my hands and shattered against the bottom of the sink. Soapy water splashed everywhere, but I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. "What did you just say?" Sarah's grin got wider. "Emma isn't your baby. I've been cheating on you for months." My knees almost gave out. The room started spinning, and I gripped the edge of the counter so hard my knuckles went white. My mind raced through every moment of Sarah's pregnancy, every doctor's appointment, every night I'd fallen asleep with my hand on her belly feeling Emma kick. "Sarah, that's not funny." She burst out laughing. Not a chuckle, not a giggle. Full-blown, doubled-over laughter like she'd just delivered the punchline of the century. "Oh my God, your face!" she gasped between laughs. "You should see yourself right now. I'm kidding, obviously. She's yours, you dummy. But wow, you really believed it for a second there." I stared at her, really stared, like I was seeing her for the first time. That's what you think is funny? Making me think my daughter isn't mine?" "Come on, it was just a joke. You're so serious all the time. I thought you'd laugh." But I wasn't laughing. I was looking at this woman I'd loved for 8 years, this woman who'd just ripped my heart out for entertainment, and something inside me broke. "A joke," I repeated quietly. "Yes, a joke. God, you really can't take anything lightly, can you?" That's when I knew. This wasn't a prank gone wrong. This was Sarah showing me exactly who she really was, and I finally believed her. Now I'm packing my bags while she sleeps peacefully, probably proud of her hilarious joke. But here's what Sarah doesn't understand yet. Some things, once broken, can't be put back together, even as a joke. I met Sarah Thompson in my sophomore year at State University. She was everything I wasn't. Outgoing where I was reserved, spontaneous where I was planned, the life of every party while I preferred quiet conversations in coffee shops. Maybe that's why it worked so well at first. We balanced each other out. Or at least, I thought we did. Sarah had this magnetic energy that drew people in. When she walked into a room, conversations got louder, laughter got bigger, everything just felt more alive. I was studying accounting, buried in spreadsheets and financial theory, when she literally crashed into my life, spilling her iced coffee all over my textbooks in the library. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she'd said, frantically dabbing at my soggy economics book with napkins. "I'm such a klutz. Let me buy you new books, and coffee, and probably dinner because I'm pretty sure I just ruined your entire semester." I should have been furious. Those books cost me $300 I didn't have. Instead, I found myself laughing for the first time in months. "It's okay," I said. "They were used anyway." "No, it's not okay. I'm Sarah, and I'm going to make this up to you." And she did. For the next 8 years, Sarah made everything up to me and more. She pushed me out of my comfort zone, encouraged me to take risks, supported me when I started my accounting practice. When I bought her engagement ring, she cried for 20 minutes and called her mom right there in the restaurant. We got married 3 years ago in a small ceremony at her family's church. Sarah looked radiant in her grandmother's dress, and during our vows, she promised to be my partner through everything life threw at us. I believed every word. We bought our first house 18 months later, a small colonial with a big backyard that Sarah immediately started planning for future kids and maybe a dog. I loved watching her dream about our life together. She'd walk through the empty rooms, arms spread wide, describing where everything would go. "The nursery will be here," she'd say, standing in what would become Emma's room, "and we'll paint it yellow because I want to be surprised about the gender." When Sarah got pregnant last year, I cried harder than she did. We'd been trying for 6 months, and I'd started to worry something was wrong. But there we were, staring at two pink lines on a pregnancy test at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. "We're having a baby," Sarah whispered, her voice full of wonder. "We're having a baby," I repeated, and suddenly our whole future crystallized in front of us. Sarah's pregnancy was textbook perfect. She glowed, literally glowed, and I fell more in love with her every day. I went to every doctor's appointment, painted the nursery twice when she changed her mind about the shade of yellow, and assembled the crib while she supervised from the bed, eating pickles and ice cream. When Emma Rose Morrison was born on a snowy February morning, I held her in my arms and felt like my life finally made complete sense. Sarah looked exhausted, but beautiful, and our little family felt unbreakable. 3 months later, my wife turned our daughter into a punchline. How do you reconcile those two versions of the same person? Looking back now, I can see the signs were always there. I just chose to call them quirks instead of warnings. Sarah's pranks started small in college. She'd put plastic wrap over the toilet seat in my dorm room, or hide my keys right before an important exam. "Life's too short to be serious all the time," she'd say when I got frustrated. And she was right, wasn't she? I was too serious, too rigid. Sarah brought spontaneity into my carefully planned world, but somewhere along the way, spontaneity became cruelty. The first real red flag should have been my birthday 3 years ago. Sarah threw me a surprise party which was thoughtful, except she invited my ex-girlfriend Hannah without telling me. Not only invited her, seated her right next to me at dinner. "Surprise!" Sarah had said with that same mischievous grin. "I thought it would be fun to see how you'd react." I spent my entire birthday party trying to manage the awkward tension while Hannah looked uncomfortable and Sarah watched us like we were entertainment. When I pulled Sarah aside later, she acted hurt that I wasn't grateful for her creativity. "I was just trying to make things interesting," she said. "You never know how to have fun anymore." Somehow, I ended up apologizing to her. For my own birthday party. Then there was the time she pranked my boss by calling in sick for me when I had an important client meeting, without telling me. I found out when Mr. Peterson called me at home, concerned about my food poisoning. "Sarah, I could have lost that account," I said after frantically rescheduling and making excuses. "But you didn't," she laughed. "And now you have a funny story to tell." Except it wasn't funny. It was humiliating and unprofessional, and I spent weeks rebuilding trust with that client. Sarah had this way of making herself the victim whenever anyone confronted her behavior. If I got upset about her pranks, I was too sensitive. If I asked her to dial it back, I was trying to change her. If I suggested maybe some things weren't appropriate to joke about, I was no fun anymore. The gaslighting was so subtle I didn't even recognize it. She'd rewrite history in real time, making me question my own reactions to her behavior. "You're being dramatic," became her standard response to any criticism. "It was just a joke. Why can't you ever just laugh?" But the worst part was how she handled serious moments. When my father had his heart attack last year, I was devastated. Dad and I weren't close, but the thought of losing him terrified me. Sarah's response? She made jokes about how I was being a baby about it, because he was fine, wasn't he? When I tried to explain how scared I'd been, she rolled her eyes and said, "You're always looking for drama where there isn't any." That should have been my breaking point. But by then, Sarah had trained me to doubt my own emotions. Maybe I was being dramatic. Maybe I did take things too seriously. Maybe this was just her way of helping me lighten up. The pregnancy seemed to settle her down for a while. She focused all that chaotic energy into preparing for Emma, and I thought maybe becoming a mother would help her mature. For 9 months, Sarah was the woman I'd fallen in love with, supportive, loving, excited about our future. I should have known it wouldn't last. 3 months after Emma was born, when I was sleep-deprived and vulnerable, trying my best to be a good father and husband, Sarah looked at my exhaustion and thought, Perfect time for a joke. She took the most sacred thing in my life, my love for my daughter, and turned it into entertainment for her own amusement. That's when I finally understood. This wasn't about pranks or spontaneity or having fun. This was about power, and Sarah had just shown me exactly how willing she was to destroy me to get it. I woke up in a Holiday Inn Express with Emma's crying echoing in my ears, except Emma wasn't there. It was just the phantom sound of my daughter, the daughter who may or may not be mine, depending on which version of my wife was telling the truth. My phone was buzzing like an angry wasp on the nightstand, 47 missed calls, all from Sarah. The first voicemail was confused. "Hey babe, where are you? Your car's gone and Emma's crying and I don't understand what's happening." The fifth one was irritated. "Seriously, this isn't funny. Whatever point you're trying to make, you've made it. Come home." By the 10th, anger had crept in. "So you're really going to punish me for one joke? This is so typical of you, blowing everything out of proportion." The 20th was desperate. "Please, just call me back. I'm sorry if I upset you. I didn't mean anything by it, you know that." Number 37 broke my heart. "Emma keeps crying and I don't know what to do. She wants her daddy and I can't. Please just come home." I sat on the edge of that hotel bed, still wearing yesterday's clothes, and felt like my chest was caving in. Every instinct screamed at me to go home, to hold my baby girl, to fix whatever was broken between Sarah and me. But then I remembered her face when she delivered that punchline, the pure joy in her eyes when she saw my world crumble, the way she'd laughed at my pain like it was the funniest thing she'd ever witnessed. Some things can't be unsaid, some jokes can't be untold. I called in sick to work, legitimately certain, cock because I'd thrown up twice since waking up, and sat in that sterile hotel room trying to figure out what the hell my life had become. Around noon, my phone rang again, different number this time. "Mr. Morrison, this is Janet from Richardson Associates. Your wife is here demanding to see you. She's causing quite a scene." My stomach dropped. "I'll be right there." I found Sarah in our office lobby, pacing like a caged animal, while my secretary Janet watched nervously from behind the reception desk. Sarah's hair was unwashed, still in the messy bun she'd worn to bed, and she was wearing sweatpants and one of my old college t-shirts. She looked like she hadn't slept. Good. Neither had I. "There you are," she said when she saw me, her voice sharp with frustration. "Do you have any idea how worried I was? You just disappeared without a word." I left a note. I need space isn't a note. It's a cop-out. Several of my coworkers had gathered in the hallway, pretending to look at files while obviously listening. This was exactly what I'd wanted to avoid. My personal life becoming office gossip. "Sarah, we can't do this here." "Then where? You won't answer your phone. You won't come home. What am I supposed to do?" The genuine confusion in her voice almost broke my resolve. Almost. But then I remembered the way she'd said, "Emma isn't yours," with that playful smile, like she was telling me what she'd made for dinner. "We'll talk when I'm ready to talk," I said quietly. "When you're ready?" Her voice got louder, shriller. "I'm sorry I made a stupid joke, okay? I'm sorry you can't take a little teasing, but running away like a child isn't going to solve anything." There it was. The non-apology wrapped in an insult. Classic Sarah. "A stupid joke," I repeated. "Is that what you think this is about?" "What else would it be about? I told you Emma was yours 10 seconds later. It was obviously not serious." I looked at her, really looked at her, standing there in my office lobby, hair a mess, eyes red from crying, genuinely bewildered by my reaction. And I realized something terrifying. She truly didn't understand what she'd done wrong. To Sarah, my devastation was just an overreaction to her harmless fun. My shattered trust was just me being too sensitive. The fact that she'd weaponized my deepest fear against me for entertainment was just Tuesday. "Go home, Sarah," I said. "Take care of our daughter. We'll talk when I'm ready." I watched her face cycle through shock, anger, and something that might have been understanding before settling on cold determination. "Fine," she said. "But this martyr act is getting old. Don't expect me to keep apologizing for something so ridiculous." She left without another word, and I stood there watching her go, wondering if I was making the biggest mistake of my life. Or if I should have made it years ago. By Thursday morning, the calls started coming in from Sarah's inner circle. First her sister Amy, then her college roommate Jessica, then her coworker Michelle. All of them with the same carefully casual tone, like they'd coordinated their approach. "Hey, just checking in," Amy said when I finally answered. "Sarah mentioned you two had a little fight." A little fight, like I'd gotten upset about dishes in the sink or forgetting to take out the trash. "Something like that," I said. There was a pause. "Look," I probably shouldn't be saying this, but this isn't the first time Sarah's pulled something like this. My blood went cold. What do you mean? She used to do this stuff when we were kids. Cruel pranks that went way too far. Then she'd act shocked when people got upset. Mom and Dad always said she was just spirited, but Amy trailed off, and I could hear her choosing her words carefully. But what? But I've been worried about her lately. She's been saying some weird things about you, about your marriage. What kind of things? That you're boring, that she feels trapped, that she wanted to see how much it would take to get a reaction out of you because you're so controlled all the time. Each word hit like a physical blow. Sarah hadn't just woken up Tuesday night and decided to make a joke. She'd been planning this, thinking about it, discussing it with her sister. Amy, how long has she been saying these things? A few weeks, maybe longer. I told her she was being ridiculous, that you're a good husband and father, but she just laughed it off. You know how Sarah is when she gets an idea in her head. Yeah, I was starting to remember exactly how Sarah was. The next call came from Jessica 2 hours later. Same concerned tone, same little fight language, but Jessica's information was more detailed. Sarah's been posting in our group chat for weeks about this prank she wanted to pull on you, Jessica said after some small talk. I told her it was a terrible idea, but you know Sarah. Once she decides something's funny. What exactly did she say in this group chat? Jessica hesitated. Maybe you should ask Sarah about that. Jessica, please. I need to know what my wife has been saying about me. A long sigh. She said you were too trusting, too gullible, that you needed to be tested somehow, to see if you'd actually stand up for yourself or just take whatever she dished out. Tested. Like I was a lab rat in Sarah's personal experiment. She thought it would be hilarious to see you panic. Then she'd reveal it was a joke and you'd be so relieved you'd probably be extra nice to her for weeks. My hands started shaking. What else? She said if you couldn't handle a little joke like that, then maybe you weren't as strong as she needed you to be. I hung up and immediately started scrolling through Sarah's social media accounts, her Facebook, her Instagram, her Twitter, looking for clues I'd missed, signs of the person Amy and Jessica were describing. And there they were. Subtle at first. Posts about people who can't take a joke and the importance of keeping relationships fun and spontaneous. Memes about boring husbands and wives who needed to shake things up. But then I found her Pinterest board. Private, but I knew her password, our wedding anniversary, because I was that predictable apparently. The board was titled Relationship Goals and filled with pins about testing your partner and keeping him on his toes. One pin particularly caught my attention. 10 harmless pranks that will show you his true character. Harmless pranks. I clicked through to the article and found a list that made my stomach turn. Fake pregnancy scares, pretending to cheat, telling him his friends said something they didn't, making him think his job was in jeopardy, all designed to create maximum emotional distress for the entertainment of watching someone you supposedly loved fall apart. The article concluded, if he can't laugh at these innocent jokes, he's probably too serious for you anyway. Innocent jokes. I took screenshots of everything. The Pinterest board, the article, her social media posts. Evidence of premeditation that any divorce lawyer would love to see. Because that's what this was leading to, wasn't it? Sarah hadn't made a mistake in judgment or a joke that went too far. She'd deliberately chosen to torture me, planned it for weeks, discussed it with her friends, and expected me to thank her for it afterward. The woman I'd loved for 8 years, the mother of my child, had turned my life into her personal entertainment. And the worst part? She genuinely thought that was normal. Friday evening. Michelle finally broke. I can't do this anymore, she said when she called. What Sarah did to you was horrible, and the fact that she's acting like you're overreacting is making me sick. Michelle had been Sarah's work friend for 3 years, part of the tight group of women who went to lunch together every day and shared everything. If anyone knew the whole story, it would be her. What really happened, Michelle? Can you meet me for coffee? I have something to show you, but I don't want to do this over the phone. We met at a Starbucks downtown, far from anywhere Sarah might accidentally run into us. Michelle looked nervous, constantly checking her phone and glancing toward the door. "Before I show you this," she said, "I want you to know that not all of us thought this was a good idea. I told Sarah she was being cruel, but she said I didn't understand your relationship." She pulled out her phone and opened her text messages. "This is the group chat. Sarah, me, Jessica, and 2 other girls from work. It goes back 3 weeks." My hands trembled as I took her phone and started reading. Sarah: "So I'm thinking of pulling the ultimate prank on David. Something that will really get a reaction." Jessica: "What kind of prank?" Sarah: "Tell him Emma isn't his. Watch him completely lose it, then reveal it's a joke. He's so gullible he'll totally believe it." Michelle: "That's really mean, Sarah. Why would you want to hurt him like that?" Sarah: "It's not about hurting him, it's about testing him. He's so boring and predictable. I want to see if there's any fire left in him or if he's just going to be a doormat forever." Jessica: "I don't know. That seems really harsh." Sarah: "Come on, it'll be hilarious. He'll panic for like 2 seconds. Then I'll tell him I'm kidding, and he'll be so relieved he'll probably do whatever I want for weeks." Work. Friend number 1. What if he doesn't think it's funny? Sarah: "Then oh no, he's not the man I thought he was. If he can't handle a little joke, what's he going to do when real problems come up?" The conversation continued for days. Sarah planning every detail, her friends expressing doubt, Sarah dismissing their concerns with increasingly cruel observations about my character. Sarah: "David is so trusting it's almost pathetic. He believes everything I tell him. It's like being married to a golden retriever." Sarah: "I could probably tell him I'm leaving him for the mailman and he'd ask if he should help me pack." Sarah: "Sometimes I think about what would happen if I actually cheated on him. Would he even notice? Or would he just keep bringing me flowers and asking if I'm happy?" I scrolled faster, my heart pounding with each message. Sarah: "I'm doing this Tuesday night. David will be doing dishes like the good little housewife he is, and I'm going to drop the bomb." Michelle: "Sarah, please don't do this. This isn't funny anymore." Sarah: "Oh, relax. He'll get over it. He always does. And then we'll have the best makeup sex we've had in months." Jessica: "What if he leaves?" Sarah: "Where's he going to go? He's got no backbone. He'll sulk for a day, then come crawling back apologizing for overreacting." But the final message in the thread, sent at 11:47 p.m. on Tuesday night, 3 hours after I'd packed my bags, was the one that broke something fundamental inside me. Sarah: "Well, that didn't go as planned. David actually left. Still think he's just being dramatic, though. He'll be back by morning with his tail between his legs." I set the phone down with shaking hands. Michelle was watching me with genuine sympathy in her eyes. "I'm so sorry," she said quietly. "I should have warned you, but I didn't think she'd actually go through with it. She planned this for 3 weeks. Yeah. She called me pathetic, said I was like a golden retriever. I know. She wanted to test me, to see if I had any fire left." Michelle reached across the table and squeezed my hand. For what it's worth, I think leaving took more fire than staying would have. I looked at her, this woman who'd watched my wife plan my emotional destruction like she was planning a birthday party, and asked the question I wasn't sure I wanted answered. "What else has she said about me?" Michelle's face fell. "David, I don't think... Please, I need to know." She took a deep breath. "She's been complaining about you for months. Says you're boring in bed, that you never surprise her anymore, that being married to you is like being married to her father. She jokes that she should have married someone with more money, or someone who'd at least fight with her occasionally." Each word was a knife twist, but I needed to hear it all. "She says you worship the ground she walks on, and it makes her feel suffocated, like she could do anything and you'd forgive her. Suffocated by my love and devotion. The prank wasn't just about testing you," Michelle continued. "It was about proving to herself that she could break you and you'd still come back. That no matter how badly she treated you, you'd always choose her." I sat in that coffee shop, surrounded by the normal sounds of people living their normal lives, and felt the last piece of my marriage die. Sarah hadn't made a mistake. She'd made a choice. The only question left was what choice I was going to make. That night, I drove to my brother Mark's house with screenshots of the group chat saved to my phone and a plan forming in my mind. Mark opened the door, took one look at my face, and poured me a double whiskey without asking any questions. "Tell me everything," he said. So I did. The whole story, from Tuesday's prank to Michelle's revelation about the group chat. Mark listened without interrupting, his jaw getting tighter with each detail. "Jesus Christ, David, I never liked her, but this is sociopathic. I need a lawyer." "Yeah, you do. But first you need to document everything, screenshots, voicemails, witness statements from Michelle and the others. Sarah's going to try to twist this around, make herself the victim. You know she will." Mark was right. I could already imagine Sarah's version of events. David overreacted to an innocent joke, abandoned his wife and baby, refused to communicate like an adult. She'd have half our mutual friends convinced I was having some kind of mental breakdown. "Mike Peterson from my golf league is a divorce attorney," Mark said. "Good one, too. Specializes in custody cases where there's emotional manipulation involved." I called Mike that night. Even though it was almost 10 p.m., he answered on the second ring. "Mark told me you might need to talk," he said without preamble. "How bad is it?" I gave him the abbreviated version, focusing on the premeditation, the group chat evidence, and the pattern of emotional manipulation. "Bring everything to my office Monday morning," Mike said. "Screenshots, witness contact information, any other documentation of her behavior. We're going to build a case that protects you and your daughter." "What are my chances of getting custody?" "With evidence of deliberate psychological abuse? Better than you think. Courts don't like parents who use children as weapons, even indirectly." That phrase stuck with me. Using children as weapons. Because that's exactly what Sarah had done, wasn't it? She'd taken my love for Emma and turned it into ammunition for her cruel joke. Sunday morning, I finally responded to one of Sarah's increasingly frantic text messages. Me. "I'll be home Monday evening to get more clothes and talk. Have Emma at your mother's." Sarah. "Why can't Emma be here? She's barely seen you all week." Me. "Because this conversation isn't appropriate for a baby to witness." Sarah. "You're being ridiculous. It was a joke, David. How long are you going to punish me for one stupid joke?" Me. "Monday at 7 p.m., Emma at your mother's, non-negotiable." I turned off my phone and spent Sunday with Mark's family, playing with my nephews and remembering what normal family dynamics looked like. Kids laughed when something was actually funny. Adults didn't spend weeks planning ways to devastate each other for entertainment. Monday morning, I sat in Mike Peterson's office and laid out 8 years of my life like evidence in a criminal trial. The group chat screenshots, Michelle's willingness to testify, a timeline of Sarah's escalating pranks over the years, and financial records showing I was the primary breadwinner. "This is good," Mike said, reviewing everything. "Very good. She's created a clear pattern of psychological abuse, and she documented it herself. That group chat is going to be Exhibit A in custody proceedings." "What about her argument that it was just a joke?" Mike looked at me over his reading glasses. "David, if I told you I was going to burn down your house, then laughed and said, 'Just kidding,' would that be a joke?" "No." "Right. Because the threat itself causes real harm, regardless of intent. Your wife threatened the foundation of your relationship with your daughter. The fact that she planned it for weeks makes it worse, not better." We spent 2 hours going over my options, my rights, and the probable timeline for divorce proceedings. Mike was confident we could secure joint custody, possibly even primary custody, given Sarah's documented instability. "What I need you to do now," he said as we wrapped up, "is stay calm tonight. Don't let her bait you into an argument. State your position clearly and calmly, document her response, and leave. Can you do that?" I thought about 8 years of letting Sarah's emotions dictate the tone of every difficult conversation we'd ever had. 8 years of backing down, apologizing, trying to manage her feelings instead of protecting my own boundaries. "Yeah," I said. "I can do that." For the first time in a week, I felt like I could breathe again. Sarah wanted to test my fire. Tonight, she was going to get burned. I arrived at our house at exactly 7 p.m., letting myself in with my key like I'd done thousands of times before. But this time felt different. This time, I was walking into enemy territory. Sarah was waiting in the living room, dressed in the blue sundress I'd always told her looked beautiful on her. Her hair was styled, makeup carefully applied. She'd prepared for this conversation like she was going on a date. "Hi," she said softly, standing up from the couch. I'm so glad you're here. I've missed you so much. Where's Emma? At my mom's, like you asked, though I still don't understand why. Sit down, Sarah. Something in my tone made her pause. I'd never spoken to her that way before, not as a request, but as a command. She sat. I remained standing and pulled out a manila envelope from my jacket pocket. These are divorce papers, I said, setting them on the coffee table between us. I'm filing for dissolution of marriage and joint custody of Emma. Sarah's face went through several emotions at once: shock, confusion, anger, and something that might have been fear. David, what are you talking about? It was a joke. One joke, and you want to destroy our entire family? It wasn't one joke, Sarah. It was 3 weeks of planning with your friends to see how much psychological damage you could inflict on me for your entertainment. I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots Michelle had sent me. I know about the group chat. I know you called me pathetic, compared me to a golden retriever, and planned this prank as a test to see if I had any fire left. Sarah's face went white. Who showed you that? Michelle? That little... It doesn't matter who showed me. What matters is that you spent weeks discussing how gullible and boring I am, then deliberately tried to destroy me emotionally to prove your point. Sarah stood up, her composure cracking. You're taking this completely out of context. We were just venting, just girl talk. Everyone complains about their husbands sometimes. Do they plan elaborate schemes to convince their husbands their children aren't theirs? It was supposed to be funny. Funny for who, Sarah? Because I wasn't laughing. Emma wasn't laughing. The only person who found my devastation entertaining was you. She started pacing, her hands gesturing wildly. You're being so dramatic about this. So I made a mistake, so what? I said I was sorry. No, you didn't. You said I was overreacting. You said I couldn't take a joke. You said I was punishing you for something ridiculous. At no point did you actually apologize for deliberately trying to break me. Sarah stopped pacing and stared at me like I was a stranger. Who are you right now? This isn't you. You don't talk to me like this. You're right. The old me would have apologized to you by now for making you feel bad. The old me would have convinced myself that maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I should just forgive and forget and try to be a better husband. I stepped closer, maintaining eye contact. But the old me didn't know that my wife was planning psychological experiments on me for weeks. The old me thought my wife loved me. I do love you. No, Sarah. You love having someone who worships you unconditionally. You love having someone who will absorb all your cruelty and ask for more. You love having a golden retriever for a husband. Tears started streaming down her face. Please don't do this. Think about Emma. Think about our family. We can fix this. How? How do we fix the fact that you think my emotional destruction is hilarious? How do we fix 3 weeks of you calling me pathetic to your friends? How do we fix the fact that you weaponized my love for our daughter? Sarah dropped to her knees in front of me, grabbing at my hands. I'll do anything. I'll go to therapy. I'll delete my social media. I'll cut off those friends. Just please don't leave me. Looking down at her, I felt something I'd never felt before in our relationship. Complete emotional clarity. Sarah, if you had to go to therapy to learn not to torture your husband for entertainment, then you're not the person I thought I married. She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. You can't take Emma from me. She needs her mother. I'm not taking Emma from you. We'll share custody, but I won't expose her to a relationship where one parent treats the other like a toy to be broken for fun. I picked up the divorce papers and set them on the table next to her. You have 30 days to respond. My lawyer will be in touch about custody arrangements. As I walked toward the door, Sarah's voice followed me, desperate and shrill. You'll regret this. You'll never find anyone who loves you like I do. I paused at the threshold and looked back at her, still crumpled on the living room floor. Sarah, I said quietly, I really hope that's true. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my new apartment watching Emma take her first real steps between the couch and the coffee table. She's wearing the little yellow dress my mom bought her, the same color as the nursery Sarah and I painted together in what feels like a lifetime ago. Come on, baby girl, I encourage her, holding out my arms. Come to Daddy. Emma grins. That same mischievous smile that used to remind me of Sarah, but now just looks like pure childhood joy, and toddles toward me on unsteady legs. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks ago. Sarah fought for primary custody, claiming I was unstable and had abandoned my family over a harmless joke. Her lawyer painted me as controlling and emotionally abusive, a man who couldn't handle his wife's vibrant personality. Then Mike presented the group chat screenshots. The judge read through 3 weeks of Sarah discussing her plan to psychologically torture me, calling me pathetic, and expressing hope that she could break me down for her amusement. Sarah's lawyer actually argued that it was just venting between friends and that women have a right to private conversations. The judge was not impressed. "Mrs. Morrison," she said, looking over her reading glasses, "planning to deliberately inflict emotional distress on your spouse is not venting. It's abuse. The fact that you documented this abuse yourself speaks to either stunning lack of judgment or genuine cruelty toward the father of your child." We got 50-50 custody, alternating weeks. Sarah keeps the house. I didn't want it anyway. Too many memories. And I pay minimal child support since we make roughly the same income. The best part? Sarah's manipulation tactics backfired spectacularly when word got out about the group chat. Michelle, feeling guilty about her role in the whole thing, showed the screenshots to several mutual friends. Within a month, most of our social circle knew exactly what Sarah had done. Jessica stopped returning Sarah's calls. Amy, Sarah's own sister, told her she was embarrassed to be related to her. Even Sarah's coworkers started treating her differently once they realized the full scope of what she'd planned. Sarah, who had spent years positioning herself as the fun, spontaneous wife married to a boring stick-in-the-mud, suddenly found herself known as the woman who tortured her husband for entertainment. The isolation has been hard on her. She's called me several times, usually late at night, crying about how lonely she is, how sorry she is, how she never meant for things to go this far. "I was just trying to make our marriage more exciting," she said during one of these calls. "Sarah, we're divorced," I reminded her gently. "You need to talk to someone else about this, a therapist maybe." "I don't want to talk to a therapist. I want to talk to you. You're the only one who really knows me." That used to be true. For 8 years, I thought I knew Sarah Thompson Morrison better than anyone on earth. Now I realize I knew the version of Sarah she wanted me to see. The charming, spontaneous, slightly chaotic, but ultimately loving woman who made my structured life more colorful. I never knew the Sarah who spent weeks planning my emotional destruction with her friends. I never knew the Sarah who thought my devastation was hilarious. I never knew the Sarah who saw our marriage as a power dynamic she needed to win. Maybe that Sarah was always there, hiding behind the pranks and the spontaneity. Maybe I just loved the illusion too much to look closer. These days, I focus on Emma. On building a life that's stable and genuine, where love doesn't come with psychological tests and emotional landmines, where a joke is actually funny, and trust isn't something to be weaponized. Emma doesn't understand why Mommy and Daddy live in different houses now, but she seems happy enough. She's got her routine down, week with Mommy in the old house, week with Daddy in the new apartment. I've made sure my place feels like home for her, with her own room and toys and the same bedtime stories I used to read to her when we were all under one roof. Sometimes, when I'm giving Emma a bath or watching her play with her blocks, I think about the man I used to be. The one who would have apologized to Sarah for overreacting, who would have convinced himself that maybe the prank really was harmless, who would have spent the rest of his marriage walking on eggshells to avoid triggering another test. That man thought love meant accepting anything from someone, no matter how much it hurt. This man knows better. Emma is asleep in her crib, one small fist curled around the stuffed elephant my parents brought her last weekend. In the soft glow of her nightlight, she looks perfectly peaceful, completely unaware that her existence was once used as ammunition in her mother's war against my peace of mind. It's been 8 months since Sarah told me Emma wasn't mine, as a prank. 8 months since I discovered that the woman I'd loved for nearly a decade saw our marriage as her personal entertainment venue. 8 months since I learned the difference between love and performance. People ask me sometimes if I regret leaving. Friends, family, even my own mother occasionally wonders out loud if maybe I overreacted, if maybe Sarah really was just making a mistake, if maybe I gave up on my marriage too easily. Here's what I tell them. Sarah didn't make a mistake. She made a choice. For 3 weeks, she chose to plan my emotional destruction. She chose to discuss it with her friends like it was a reality TV show. She chose to look me in the eye and rip my heart out, then laugh at the pieces. But more importantly, I made a choice too. I chose to stop accepting cruelty disguised as love. I chose to show my daughter what healthy boundaries look like. I chose to believe I deserved better than being someone's psychological experiment. The hardest part wasn't leaving Sarah. The hardest part was accepting that the Sarah I'd fallen in love with, spontaneous, vibrant, full of life, was the same Sarah who could coldly plan to devastate me for entertainment. They weren't two different people. They were two sides of the same person, and I'd been willfully blind to the dark side for 8 years. I think about that sometimes, when I'm alone in this apartment that's smaller than our old house but feels infinitely safer. How many red flags did I dismiss as quirks? How many moments of cruelty did I reframe as Sarah being spirited or keeping me on my toes? Love, I've learned, shouldn't require you to constantly manage someone else's emotions while neglecting your own. It shouldn't involve tests or pranks or elaborate schemes to see how much you can endure. It shouldn't leave you walking on eggshells, afraid that the person who claims to love you most might be planning your next humiliation. Real love, the kind I want Emma to recognize when she's old enough to date, is gentle. It's safe. It doesn't require you to prove your worth through suffering. Sarah has moved on, or at least she's trying to. She's dating someone new, a guy from her yoga class who apparently finds her spontaneous nature refreshing. I genuinely hope he's prepared for what that means. I hope he's ready for the tests, the pranks, the constant need to prove he's worthy of her attention. Most of all, I hope he's strong enough to leave when she shows him who she really is. As for me, I'm learning what it's like to live without constantly anticipating the next emotional ambush. I'm rediscovering the person I was before I spent 8 years trying to manage Sarah's chaos. I'm building a life where surprise doesn't equal cruelty, where love doesn't require psychological endurance tests. Emma is growing up in 2 homes now, but both of them are honest. At my house, she learns that people who love you don't hurt you for fun. At Sarah's house, well, I can't control what she learns there, but I can make sure she has at least one parent who shows her what authentic love looks like. Sometimes I wonder if Sarah ever truly understood what she did wrong. In her mind, I think she still believes I overreacted to a harmless joke. She still sees herself as the victim of my inability to have fun. But that's not my problem anymore. To anyone listening to this story, wondering if they're overreacting to their partner's jokes or tests or pranks, trust your gut. If someone's idea of fun involves your pain, that tells you everything you need to know about their character. If they dismiss your hurt feelings as overreaction, they're showing you exactly how much your emotional well-being matters to them. Love shouldn't hurt. It shouldn't require you to prove your worth. And it definitely shouldn't involve someone you trust using your deepest fears against you for entertainment. Emma stirs in her crib, making the little sighing sound she's made since she was born. I adjust her blanket and watch her settle back into peaceful sleep. She'll never have to wonder if her father's love comes with conditions or tests or cruel surprises. She'll grow up knowing that the people who truly love her will protect her heart, not weaponize it. And maybe that's the most important lesson I can teach her. That she deserves better than I settled for, and she's strong enough to demand it, even from people who claim to love her most. What do you think? Have you ever experienced someone who treated your pain as their entertainment? Let me know in the comments if you've dealt with similar manipulation disguised as jokes, and how you found the strength to walk away.